Kentucky Derby.
Turn. The leader, War Admiral, 2.5 for clean.
Next McCain is in the center of the racetrack. The Admiral sloop drawing alongside again.
War Emblem is still there. War Emblem is pulling away. He's got another gear.
Yeah, the Swiss thing coming the Derby. Wheel away takes command.
Lion Hart is all Hart. Smarty Jones is all out. And here is the first undefeated winner of the Kentucky Derby since Seattle's low of 1970.
We are continuing to cross days off the calendar. The Kentucky Oaks 1 week away. The draw for the Oaks and Derby during opening night's card tomorrow night under the historic Twin Spires of Churchill Downs. Lots of Oaks workers expected this morning, just 1 week out from the race. It's time for the Kentucky Derby Morning Workout Show presented by Twin Spires. Lots of rain yesterday. The main track right now is being rated as muddy. The temperature in the low 60s and the skies are mostly cloudy as we take a look at the headlines. Now, Bilt is in the body of the race for the Kentucky Derby. He breezed yesterday, but a decision on his status is forthcoming. Owen Almighty posted a final work in advance of the Kentucky Derby in company. We will take a closer look at that Brian Lynch trainee. Expect the Kentucky Derby workers this morning. Chunk of Gold is already gone at Turfway. Grande expected to work at Keeneland today, and then both horses will be vanned to Churchill Downs. And a plethora of Kentucky Oaks workers expected this morning, including the likely favorite, that is Good Cheer for trainer Brad Cox. Taking a look at the arrival of Citizen Bull yesterday, coming in from Southern California, and for the most part, he avoided the storms as we had quite a bit of rain right around his arrival time yesterday. And Bob Baffert with he and Rodriguez in this year's Kentucky Derby as we welcome in Kevin Kilroy. You know, the horses have been trickling in and mentioned the Oaks is 1 week from today. We got the draw tomorrow, opening night. And again, it's all about crossing days off the calendar.
Yeah, crossing days off the calendar. And for me, I like to think about the Derby lessons I've learned. I think back to last year, we saw that huge effort by Fearness with his final prep, put in a big drill, moving very well, thinking that he's going to be ready to roll that first Saturday in May, and then he fell flat after that, seeing him on the track. So I don't just want to see one work, see one view of one of these horses and think, all right, I know what I've got. I want to keep my eyes on them and see how their energy is going for this last week.
We've heard a lot of different perspectives over the course of the last several days on the Kentucky Derby Morning Workout Show. And what has become tradition, 1 week out from the Kentucky Oaks, we bring on a Kentucky Oaks winning rider. She's competed in the Kentucky Derby as well, high atop the fourth floor. Again, Rosie, it has become tradition. Welcome to the Workout Show, Rosie Napravnik.
Thanks, Joe, and it's so great to be here again, back in the best seat in the house on the fourth floor overlooking the track, and I'm so grateful to be here. I really get to see all the best excitement right on the front side. The track is not quite ideal this morning, but as always, some horses are skipping right over it, and some look like they're, not appreciating the muddy track. So we'll see what the weather brings and what breezers we get later on this track and with the rain forecasted. But great to be out here. I'm excited about the hype of all these horses coming out this morning. We'll check in with Megan on the backside.
Well, how lucky are we to be joined by none other than Rosie Napravnik this morning? Very excited to hear her thoughts. But back here on the backside, things are getting serious, folks. We are officially in the final countdown as we approach next weekend's Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks this morning. Stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of those ladies prepping in and putting in their final drills for the Kentucky Oaks. We've got the likes of Good Cheer that we will see out here on the track today, as well as Take Charge My Lady, and of course, the Whit Beckman duo. So keep an eye on those. But guys, we are officially in the single digits. Things are getting very serious here on the backside of Churchill Downs.
Well, thank you, Megan, and thank you, Rosie. And Kevin, you saw that shot of the racetrack behind Megan there. It's sticky, it's peanut buttery. Kevin Kirstein texting us moments ago at the break, the track's going to be floated with the rakes behind it. and that means there's going to be a better racetrack later in the morning as it continues to dry out. It remains to be seen how many of these Oaks workers are actually going to breeze in that designated training period and which ones are going to wait till a little bit later on.
Yeah, got out here early, Joe, and didn't see too many workers going across the track. Did see quick kick come out for Tom Amos, so she's made her routine appearance early in the morning to jog a little bit.
All right, let's take a look at the Kentucky Derby points leaderboard, and Chunk of Gold did work earlier this morning at Turfway Park, and final time for that, I believe, 59 2/5. We will definitely be able to bring you that at some point. As we turn the page here, we saw Citizen Bull Kevin arriving yesterday. Question whether or not he's going to add the blinkers for the Kentucky Derby or not. We will know at the entry time late tomorrow morning.
Yeah, Joe, page one, we've got one front runner on there with Rodriguez, right? Sort of having that best form of those forward horses. Page two, I really do believe that we've got the horses that you've got to have strong opinions about in terms of the long shots, the price horses that you want to use in your trivectas, your supervectas. So that's the work we got to do now.
You'll notice that Flavian Pratt is named not only on Baeza but also on Neo Equos. Neo Equos has a better chance to get in. If he gets in and Baeza doesn't, then Flavian will ride Neo Equos for Safi Joseph Jr. One horse that is in the field is Built, Kevin. Obviously a question whether or not he's actually going to run in the Derby or the Pat Day Mile.
Yeah, he's bred to get the distance. You look at the bloodlines, it makes sense that he can get it done. What we've seen from Built the past three races, we've seen him down at Fairgrounds, Joe, is he's just moved too early into each of those races and just fell flat late. Ben Curtis up on the work, as we can watch that work from yesterday, and we'll see if he's going to be right. We still haven't a rider named. We don't know if we're going to see Built in the Kentucky Derby or the Pat Day Mile, like you mentioned, but I think Ben Curtis would fit him so well. A strong turf rider, knows how to settle a horse and produce them late. So here we got him moving. I thought he moved decent enough.
Yeah, his gallops haven't been overly impressive, but he shakes out of it here. He works nicely. We're going to bring in Rosie Napravnik for this work. And Rosie, he is working solo here. He does go 59 2/5, as Kevin mentioned, with Ben Curtis up. What are you seeing from Built here? And again, talking about the 1.25 mile distance for him, can you tell at all by watching his races, by watching this work, whether or not this is a horse that could successfully potentially get that amount of ground?
Yeah, this work is, obviously a quick move, and he's doing it all in hand with the blinkers on and a solo work, so he doesn't have anyone to run with, but he's quite keen and doing it well within himself. It's obviously, you're going to see here, I believe they're going to ask him to gallop out, so you can see after the wire, the jockey the exercise rider is actually getting lower on the horse and asking him to run after the wire. So obviously with the last two finishes, with him losing position in the last eighth of a mile, they're really wanting to make sure that this horse is running out past the wire. And clearly I think the distance is definitely a question for this horse, but a good work, absolutely a good work, and a nice gallop out.
And cat enthusiast John Nichols, who does a great job up on the fourth floor, and Built. The decision yet to be made. Will it be the Kentucky Derby or the Kentucky Oaks? We caught up with Kentucky Derby or the Pat Day Mile. We caught up with trainer Wayne Catalano.
That was a great move. I like the way he worked. He came home good. He finished up. He come home the last quarter in 23, which was solid. Nice work. Looked good doing it. Probably ran him one too many times, but the circumstance was running him. He was home and we stayed there. We made the decision. We can't take it back now. I coulda, I would, but he's doing well. So we'll see. We'll talk to Aaron. We'll see what we're gonna do. I'd like to see him make his run at the quarter pole in his last couple of races or so before, to finish him up a lot better, but it didn't. In the distance, we're not sure yet. It's the same thing for everybody. That's a question. The jury's out for who can get the 1.25 mile and who gets the trip. And the Derby always. We're more or less looking probably at the Pat Day Mile, but I'll talk to Aaron about it. He's got the favorite already in the Derby, so, we'll see what happens.
Wayne Catalano's first and only Kentucky Derby starter, 1997 with Crypto Star in the owner he's talking about there is Aaron Wellman from Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners, also involved with the ownership of journalism. It remains to be seen what's going to happen, but we have to know by late tomorrow morning which race they're going to enter in, Kevin.
Joe, I've kind of switched my minds about this. I'd run him. I think that he could possibly produce late. I think a rider like Ben Curtis would fit him very well. I'd put him in there and see what he can do, because the right trip, maybe he can make that move that he's got a great move, a great middle move that could carry forward. I think it could translate well in the Derby.
Built, will it be the Kentucky Derby or the Pat Day Mile? Well, Owen Almighty was in based on points, and the connections thought about going into the Pat Day Mile. They jumped back into the Derby fray a few days ago, Kevin, and this horse certainly has a nice resume, but again, similar to Built, the distance is the question.
Yeah, this is the same conversation with both these horses, right? Which race should they go in? Can they get the distance? This move was promising, definitely very intriguing. A horse that I've been sort of drawing a line through. Haven't seen him been asked too much, but they really put a big work into him with company. The gallop out, the energy, all the way to the track kitchen at the end. That's the stuff you want to see. He's showing us a sign in this work that he can get the distance, so he might spark a little bit more attention after this move.
There you see the Workmate's Tale. That is No Sleep Till Brooklyn, an 0 for 5 maiden as we bring Rosie Napravnik back in. Now, this is a horse in two-turn races, Rosie, that has shown speed. He went gate to wire in the Sam F. Davis at Tampa Bay Downs. And, the question with him is, whether or not he can rate going the two turns. And this certainly looks like the design that Brian Lynch is going to try to bring forward.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that they're clearly rating the horse in the work behind a horse that he's obviously superior to in form and in the display here. The jock's just got a nice hold on him, just letting him run within himself, and he's easily surpassing the Workmate. It's a nice move, I think, going into the Derby when you have a horse that has speed and has run on the lead. It's important that they can rate off of a horse, because you really have only so much control about the setup that you go into that first turn. But again, another horse after the wire that you can see the rider is actually getting lower and asking him to gallop out after the wire. So another horse we, had a little bit of a disappointing race last out in the Bluegrass, but they are, wanting this horse to run out past the wire and see how well he gallops out, and we're all thinking about how the distance will suit him.
Correct myself there. Second in the Sam F. Davis gate to wire winner in the Tampa Bay Derby in advance of that tired sixth place performance in chase mode versus East Avenue in the Bluegrass last out. All right, so from this Florida-based horse, at least in the winter, Owen Almighty, to another in Sovereignty for trainer Bill Mott, a winner on this racetrack, won a stake race here as a 2-year-old, Kevin, and has continued on nicely as a 3-year-old. Let's take a look at him schooling at the gate yesterday and your impressions of Sovereignty.
Yeah, Sovereignty, I think both him and Journalism physically, Joe, they look the part. They're just big horses that really impressed me. Now, the mind of Sovereignty, I think, is a question, and we'll look a little bit about his sweats when he's been on the track. The win in the Street Sense was great. Love to see that. He won at Churchill Downs. Florida Derby, I thought he had Japan Street in his sights, but never really could make up any links on him as they went through the wire and in the gallop out. So Sovereignty, I think, is one that will be coming late. If he gets the right trip, he definitely has a big shot.
He was a little bit washy in the mornings here, a couple of mornings in a row. Reached out to Samantha Perry about Sovereignty. He said, pre-Found of Youth didn't turn a hair, but when he went out onto the racetrack for the Florida Derby, he was dripping sweat behind the gate. And she follows the racing at Gulfstream obviously every day in this horse. And she said that it's a little bit of a concern for a horse that's going to be one of the favorites as we bring in Rosie Napravnik. And Rosie, you've been aboard so many horses in the morning. I'm sure you've had experience with horses maybe showing a little bit of negative energy. Is that sweat aboard a horse that's been on the grounds for several days any sort of concern to you?
I think the thing that's most telling is the difference if the horse, previously was pretty calm and cool without having a sweating issue, where he would get overly hot, and now is displaying that. You can see here on this video after this gallop, he's got white lathered sweat on his neck. And, also to say, it really looked like he didn't have much excuse not to beat Tappan Street in the Florida Derby. So I do think that is a really interesting observation and something that we'll keep an eye on as he goes through Derby week. We'll see, they'll school this horse in the paddock and see how he handles it. They'll try to give him every opportunity to soak it in and, stay relaxed. But definitely something to take note of, I think, especially considering his performance in the Florida Derby and just the fact that the sweating has changed.
It wasn't like this the first few mornings he was here. Even the day that he worked, he didn't get lathered up at all. So this has just been the last few mornings here at Churchill Downs. One horse that arrived on the grounds and has been the art of a thoroughbred since the moment he stepped on the track here under the Twin Spires is the likely Kentucky Derby favorite, Journalism, Kevin.
Yeah, just to put a bow on Sovereignty real quick, that was a big move. He worked very well. So we're seeing the sweats, but he did work very well. Journalism, as soon as he got to the track, puffed up, Joe. He's telling everybody that he is the man. He got to feel that way. He's been winning out in California. He's been beating small fields, some Baffert horses that have distance questions. Journalism looks the part. He's feeling himself. Let's see if he can get it done against 20.
Some more gate schooling here again for the horses to get used to the gate. Obviously, here at Churchill Downs and the assistant starters to get used to the horses and some of their quirks as we bring Rosie Napravnik back in, Rosie. And again, Journalism, the talk of the backstretch. Everybody that has an eye for horse flesh talking about how impressive this horse has been in his demeanor and his physicality.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been absolutely a professional on the track. You can see here, like, his ears are pricked. He's nice and relaxed. He's got a very harmonious relationship with his rider where, they're totally in agreement about how fast they're going to go and just enjoying his job out here. So not only is he the buzz horse from California, but he's also just handling himself like the one to beat. So, I think it's not an uncommon thing that the buzz horse is coming out of California, but it's usually one of the speed horses. So I love his running style, love the way he's acting out here. So this is one that you're going to really be watching to see where he draws in the post position.
Talked about Citizen Bull arriving yesterday. Bob Baffert's other runner is Rodriguez, and he's named for Sixto Rodriguez, the Sugar Man, the late American musician who gained fame in South Africa, a musician with a style all of his own. Now this horse has one style, it's to go to the front.
Yeah, he's one-dimensional. He's never passed a horse in a race. We've seen him turn back by Barnes in the San Felipe. We saw the blinkers come off, sent to the Wood Memorial. I thought that was an interesting move. He ran huge, made a big move forward. He's going to be straight to the front, Joe. This is going to be the front runner for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. Mike Smith aboard, and the blinkers were on. The blinkers come off. A lot of times, Rosie, when the blinkers come off, it helps the horse relax. Maybe the running style changes a little bit. That did not happen at all. What Mike Smith was most impressed about was the gallop out after the Wood Memorial.
Yeah, and I think that the Wood Memorial was a sneaky good race. I mean, a lot of times the favorites are not coming out of the Wood, but I thought it was a great race this year. It was one of the fastest mile and 1/8 races, prep races. And this horse was ultra impressive in that race. I mean, he did take the pressure. I think the time was super solid, but he looks relaxed on the track. They do have the blinkers off, so, clearly they want the horse to be able to settle. But I think Mike Smith has already, said that he was planning to be forwardly placed. So, I mean, a really good horse to have going into the first turn who's got some speed and can get into some position.
Rodriguez and exercise rider Eric Garcia on the racetrack at the Churchill Downs yesterday.
Yeah, what do you think? Rodriguez, East Avenue, neither has passed a horse in the afternoon. Yeah. Do you think they battle for the lead? Who do you think's going to?
I mean, again, the gate break plays a lot. The post position plays a lot, but I don't think there's any question. Even if they break poorly, their rider is going to put them in the race.
Yeah, absolutely.
Money back offer at Churchill Downs. It is a great promotion courtesy of Twin Spires, and it begins tomorrow, opening night, on the eligible races. If you bet a horse to win on Twin Spires after opting in and they run second or third, you'll get up to $10 back. This is some insurance on your win bet. Make sure you opt into Twin Spires. Again, this offer does begin tomorrow, opening night under the Twin Spires. When we return here on the Kentucky Derby Morning Workout Show, we're going to take a look at some of the Kentucky Oaks horses, including Simply Joking. We'll be right back.
Place your bets with Twin Spires Handicapping Insights, our expert picks, or just by choosing a name that catches your eye. No matter how you pick your horse, bet with Twin Spires. Get your money back if your horse finishes second or third in eligible races.
Like the Kentucky Derby, Woodford Reserve Bourbon is a spectacle for the senses.
We are back on the Kentucky Derby Morning Workout Show. As you can see, a little bit of a muddy racetrack condition here as we get closer and closer to the designated training hour for the Oaks and Derby horses, which is now about 10 minutes away. Muddy, temperature in the low 60s, and lots of Oaks workers in particular expected under the Twin Spires here this morning. Well, Kevin, the draw for the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby is tomorrow, and that's the next step before we eventually get to those races next weekend. But the actual journey for these trainers, the horses, and the jockeys themselves, it all begins way back in September.
Yeah, it begins in September. It carries out. We get that front row seat at fairgrounds. Not only the horses trying to get there, but the jockeys trying to get that mount, right? It's so key. It's such a big part of their year, and it's always interesting to see who gets named to what and whether they stay on.
Speaking of the fairgrounds, Jose Ortiz was the leading rider there this winter, dominated the standings, and for him, the road to the Kentucky Derby has come full circle.
Everybody should be looking the road to the Derby as an exciting day.
We're going to kick off the road to Kentucky Derby 151.
Valente is going to be superstar.
Points on the road to Kentucky Derby 151.
I won the Belmont, I won the Preakness, and I'm still haven't won the Derby yet, so that's what we're here for.
Journey to the Derby, Jose Ortiz, a new episode released on YouTube every morning right around 6 o'clock in the morning, so you can check those out. It's a ride along with Jose Ortiz, Kevin, his journey to the Kentucky Derby beginning way back in September, all the way till he finally, is secured on a mount leading up to the draw, and a lot of things happening in between.
Yeah, he didn't find that horse at fairgrounds. It was all over the place in terms of jumping onto different mounts, but he's a class act. I really love the way he handled himself. He was a hustler down there to get that title. Jose Ortiz is one that you're going to want to get to know more and more through this.
Looking very forward to this series, again, released on YouTube, new episode every morning. Make sure you check that out. Now, we talked about Built and his status for the Kentucky Derby. The first horse on the outside looking in is Neo Equos. Kevin, this horse yesterday, Safi Joseph working him in companies on the inside, and he did say after the work that Flavian Pratt would be the rider were Neo Equos to get in, and if Baeza doesn't make it in, because that would obviously be Flavian's first choice.
Yeah, we're seeing him with Mr. Narcissistic, who's at starter allowance level, a strong starter allowance level runner for Safi Joseph. He heads him, he gets by him. It seems like he kind of lets him get by, and just really poor energy in the gallop out. This is one like we usually see from Neo Equos, not a strong morning mover.
Another horse that, if he does get in, will go forward, you would think. Flavian Pratt is a very tactical rider, though. He's not necessarily a send rider, so that'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Again, entries for the Oaks and Derby due tomorrow morning in advance of the draw late tomorrow afternoon into the evening. I believe it's about 7:15 is when the Oaks and Derby will be drawn during the middle portion of the Churchill Downs opening night card. All right, let's take a look at the Oaks leaderboard again. 20 horses in the Derby, 14 in the Oaks, Kevin.
Yeah, Quiet Side has the most points, right? Good Cheer at 145 will be the favorite. La Cara, what a big work from her recently. I love these fillies. It's a neat group. I do think Good Cheer stands out above the field, but after that, there's about 7 of them that seem about even.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There you see the 14, nobody on the outside looking in for the Kentucky Oaks. We got to see Tendler for the first time yesterday in preparation for the Oaks after coming in from Southern California. Tendler was a horse that was number 1 on my list as we bring Rosina Pravnik back in to take a look at this Bob Baffert trained filly. Kind of maybe took a little bit of a step backwards in her most recent start, but also was coming in off of a couple of month layoff and still got the job done. Really interesting to see how she trains here over the course of the next several days before we put him in the starting gate, Rosie.
Yeah, she's obviously out here. She looks like she's galloping really strong. A horse in here who's got a little bit of tactical speed and not coming out of the fastest race, but definitely one of the horses to keep an eye on, training really well. You can see she's got her ears pricked. She's doing everything really well within her, and the rider is just trying to contain the energy here and a nice strong gallop. Gonna head into the stretch soon, and you can see she's moving well. This is a fast track that she was galloping on here, which is not what we have today. The tractors actually just went by me, and they did seal with a rake behind it. But this filly, yeah, she's really looking strong coming down the lane. You can see the rider also has her like way out into the middle of the track, and that's just to keep her far from the rail where the speed work is normally done.
Put a quick bow on her, Kevin, from a 5 to a 2 in the last Virginist to a 7 in the Santa Anita Oaks and the Thoroughgraphs last out.
Yeah, looking at Brisnet, though, we just see a little bit of a different story. 94 in that Las Virgenes and the Oaks, a 93. So, you got to like the idea that she didn't use all of it, right? To win that Oaks. She should move forward from that effort. Will it be enough? She's definitely proven that she's got some big figures within her.
One of the expected pace setters in the Kentucky Oaks is Simply Joking. Won a sprint on debut at Fairgrounds in the Letelier Memorial as a first-time starter, then went gate to wire in the Silver Bullet Day, threw it down with Quiet Side in the Fantasy. She was on the inside, Quiet Side on the outside, and Quiet Side wore down Simply Joking. Simply Joking has been training well. She certainly is fresh. She certainly is a horse that wants to go, but a nice relaxed gallop yesterday for trainer Whit Beckman, who also has Drexel Hill in this year's Kentucky Oaks as well. So look at some of the Kentucky Oaks horses. Now we're going to reset and revert back to some of the Kentucky Derby horses and horses that I'm interested in learning more about. Japan invading once again this year, and nobody knows more about those horses than the guest standing by with Megan Burgess. Megan?
Well, always privileged to welcome our friends from Japan here more consistently in the Kentucky Derby, and very thankful to be joined by Kate Hunter this morning. You're a globetrotter, Kate. You represent Japan on all major international assignments. We kind of akin you to the Kevin Kirstein of Team Japan, but last year you nearly won this race with Forever Young, a generational talent. You bring in Admire Daytona and Lexer Cafe to this year's race, and Admire Daytona arrived here earlier on the 9th. He's been settling into his surroundings, coming off that UAE Derby win, which was a little bit later this year. How has he been settling in, and what can we expect to see from him in the coming days?
Well, he settled in really, really well. Since the race was so recent, there was really no reason to push him over the next couple of weeks, kind of leading up to the Derby. We want to take it slow and make sure we don't exacerbate the lateness of the UA Derby this year. But he came out of the race remarkably well. Like, I'm actually kind of shocked and knock on all the wood in the world because of how well he came out of that race. So we feel very lucky.
Lexer Cafe was exclusively campaigned in Japan. He had some impressive efforts there. He came to us on Wednesday of this week. He got to take to his surroundings yesterday. Talk to me about his progress and how he's been able to come into himself here at Churchill Downs.
Oh, he just got here, but he was born in America, and so he was used to the flight, so he traveled remarkably well, which is always a concern for travelers. But since, once you've done it once, most of the horses can typically adapt really well, and he's proven that. He arrived in fantastic condition, so he'll be stepping things up as things go along, and hopefully the weather will hold for us. The trainer gets here on both trainers get here on Monday, and so that's when they'll probably start making decisions and things like that on their final prep. For probably a breeze, I think maybe around Tuesday, Japanese style breeze, so it might disappoint some of y'all. But each trainer has their own very unique tactics, the same as Yahagi did last year, and Otonashi Sensei with his figure eights, and Shintani Sensei with his long figure eights for a long period of time. So it's really awesome to be able to bring these trainers over here and showcase both their training style and their will to win.
I don't think Americans quite know the task that it takes to get these horses here, whether it be from the Middle East, whether it be from Japan. Talk to us about what that travel process really looks like for you guys.
Well, the first step is always booking a plane and making sure their vaccines are up to date. But it's mostly about making sure that you've got everything ordered and everything lined up. For America in particular, when you're coming over here to race, you basically have to do the exact same stuff as if you were going to move to that state. as a trainer or as an owner. And so it's a lot of paperwork, which is my job. So they get the fun part, ride the horses and take care of them, get them all ready for the race, and I get to fill out all the forms.
Well, thank you for doing that, by the way, the labor of love that it takes to get that done. But the Japanese racing fans are among the most loyal in the world. What does this race mean to them, especially with the likes of world-renowned jockeys Christophe Lemaire and Jean Moreira joining us this year?
Well, Christophe is a huge fan favorite, and with Joe's win streak right now in Japan, like he's going to be pretty probably in Japanese betting a very high favorite there. So for the fans, like they really enjoy seeing their homegrown heroes travel overseas, even if like it's a horse like maybe Admire Daytona, who before the UA Derby success might have been lesser known. Like they really love to see their horses travel, and so with the more recent addition of Japanese betting on some of these races, I think it has really kind of ramped up that enthusiasm for overseas travel, not only amongst the horsemen, but amongst the Japanese fans.
Well, Kate, always a privilege to be able to catch up with you. And folks, do not count out Team Japan as we are rooting them on next Saturday and this year's Kentucky Derby.
Well, thank you, Megan, and thank you, Kate, another cat enthusiast. And I want to see more of Luxor Cafe.
Oh, I do too. I mean, been so game. Wide trips in the last two, finishes so well. Moreira, I mean, it's an artist on top of a horse, the way he gets a horse to produce. So I think Luxor Cafe stands a big chance in the Kentucky Derby.
Now, if Kevin Kilroy wasn't working with us on the team at Churchill Downs, he would have qualified already for the Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge. I know you love these tournaments, Kevin. We've got another qualifier opening night tomorrow. $250,000. Betting Challenge seats for next year for the Derby, NHC seats for next year, a BC seat, tickets to next year's Derby, $250,000, so much on the line, bragging rights, etc. This is super exciting, the first ever Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge.
Yeah, there's so much excitement about the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, right, that Majors has already established. There's going to be the same amount of excitement for the Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge. The pools are huge. It's an opportunity to take big swings. You're going to get value, and that value is just compounded by that $250,000 prize that you can take a swing for.
Live racing tomorrow at Churchill Downs. It is opening night, first post at 5 o'clock. We've got an excellent card for you. Very much looking forward to getting things started. And right midway through the card, we're going to have the post position draws for the Kentucky Oaks, followed by the Kentucky Derby. Soon thereafter, we'll have the past performances for both Friday and Saturday for us to peruse through about a week in advance. And this is always exciting, Kevin. We get those steps and those stages. This is the big one. We get to see the post positions and really try to map out the expected pace scenarios.
Yeah, you thought we've overanalyzed these horses by this point, but with the draw and you start seeing where they are, it's going to be even more for us to sink our teeth into.
Bethany Taylor, Coal Battle. I'd like to check out the action. They're about ready to go on the racetrack with a lot of Kentucky Oaks expected workers as well. We'll be right back.
As they head to the backstretch, it's a tight pack.
He's going to pull ahead. The Twin Spires expert picks were all optimistic.
You've got the best speed rating in the field. Don't fail me now.
Man, I love this horse's name.
And from far behind, here comes Frank. It's neck and neck. Frank is winning. Frank wins!
Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with Twin Spires, the official betting partner of the Kentucky Derby. Get your money back if your horse finishes second or third in eligible races.
We are back on the Kentucky Derby morning workout show as you see the horses anxiously awaiting their opportunity to get out onto the racetrack. Kevin Kirstein reporting that Good Cheer is expected to work this morning. She is the Kentucky Oaks favorite. There you see Good Cheer. And we've got Megan Burgess, we've got Rosie Napravnik and Kevin Kilroy joining me as well. And if we can go to Rosie, she's a perfect 6 for 6. She has won a lot of her races easy. She's learned some lessons in recent starts, checking a lot of the boxes coming into the Kentucky Oaks. Your impressions of Good Cheer, Rosie?
Yeah, there's not much not to like about this filly. She's a horse that has tactical speed. She can get into a good position, but she's rateable, and obviously shows up every time. You can see her just standing on the gap, just by herself with looks like the jockeys aboard, and just absolutely class act here. Got her ears pricked. Not feeling any nerves at all. She's got her blinkers on, looks like she's ready to work, and I'm looking forward to seeing this work, see how she handles this track. The tractors have gone by me twice, and I know the track is labeled good, but it's not an ideal track, so we'll see how it goes. Some horses are going to skip over it, and some horses are probably going to get a little stuck in it. And we've got rain forecasted for this weekend, so it's important to see how these horses handle an off track.
Good Cheer has won 6 consecutive races to begin her career, undefeated. 3 of those at Churchill Downs by a combined 24 lengths, including the Rags to Riches and the Goldenrod. And we know there's 14 in the Oaks, Kevin, and we know there are some horses that want to go forward. I'm going to be trying to beat her. I have the utmost respect for her, but this is a gambling game.
It is a gambling game, Joe. That's bold, though. You want to go against this Good Cheer? Dolphin Homebred, 6 for 6. Cox filly. Whew. That's bold. Last time she was on a sloppy track, she won by 17 lengths, right? So she could definitely handle it. I think she'll move well in this. I do like the fact that you're willing to step up against her. She moved forward in that last race, winning the Fairgrounds Oaks in terms of looking at Thorograph. That's what I wanted to see. Also just got into a different position. Her mind, Joe, that's the big thing that Cox always celebrates about her. She's always been so mentally mature, always within herself in a way that stands out above all the other amazing fillies and colts that are in the barn. So physically, you're not going to see the most sort of impressive specimen, but mentally, what's in there is something that even Louis Saez compliments.
Rosie, we spend a lot of time together. We do the New Vocations Day at the races at Fairgrounds in the winter. We talk a lot about, your riding career and how you approached mounts. Now, a different strategy. If you're on Good Cheer, looks like there's a little bit of speed, quite a bit of speed, in fact, in the Kentucky Oaks. If you're riding her, a path to victory. And if you're riding against her, trying to beat her, talk about the mindset of the rider trying to do both of those things.
Well, I think that's where the post position comes in a lot. And honestly, like I was actually just thinking before you asked me that question, Good Cheer is a horse where no post position is going to be too detrimental to her because she does have that tactical speed, and having the other speed in this race, allows her to take her time getting into position, but she has that tactical speed to not to miss out on a position. So, I guess if you're trying to beat this horse, you would want to have her inside you somewhere where you can keep her, so that she has to wait before she can move. We'll have to see how the post positions shake out and where the pace scenario is going to end up. But, it's the one I would want to be sitting on going into this race.
There you see Louis Saez, who is going to be aboard for the work. And Rosie, it's interesting because you've been aboard a lot of really good horses. You've been aboard a lot of favorites in big races. Is there any extra added pressure being aboard a horse like Good Cheer, who everybody, well, not everybody, but most people expect to win?
I have a feeling with a jockey like Louis Saez on her, who's, ridden all these big races. He's very, very capable, very qualified. It kind of just gives you confidence being able to go in knowing you're on the best horse. It's definitely, the way I felt going into Untappable. And there is a little bit of pressure. Obviously, if you don't get a smooth trip and get beat because of that, then that's really going to reflect on you. And our jobs as riders, as jockeys, is to be able to have those instinctual moves that make the difference.
Good Cheer is supposed to work in company with a horse by the name of Saucier. We'll get a chance to see that. Also, in other news, Torpedo Anna, last year's Kentucky Oaks winner, is also going to work, I do believe, during this designated training period. So a little bit of an extra incentive for people to come out here and watch these horses train. And there you see Tenma. We saw the gallop from her yesterday, our first opportunity to see her on the racetrack. And what are we looking for, Kevin? Obviously, we want to see a workout from her. We've seen her train and race in Southern California. This is the first time she stepped on this racetrack, but a little bit different sort of racetrack than she's used to where she comes from.
Yeah, I want to see a professional move. I want to see her totally within herself. I want to see her not ask too much, but still offer a sharp time, right? She did slow down a little bit winning the last one. Our question is she regressing, or was that all she needed to do? Did she save something for this race? So I want to see her just move very professionally with not much urging from the rider. I want to see, I would love to see if we're going 5, sub 1 minute, especially from a Baffert horse. And we'll just see her that her footing feels right. Now, we do have a little moisture in the track. But this will be her first time at Churchill Downs. Does she take in the environments? Is it not phasing her? Is she just sort of relaxed and immature in that sort of way?
Some of these Oaks horses might push their works back outside of the designated training period. We'll see how it goes. We're getting reports in from Kevin Kirstein regularly. Megan Burgess reporting the Take Charge Milady, who's in that second tier of favorites for the Oaks. The runner-up in the Ashland last out is going to train, and Breeze, I should say, tomorrow for trainer Ken McPeak. So again, some news trickling in on some of these horses. Florent Giroux is going to be aboard, simply joking, for her work. Torpedo Anna, as I mentioned earlier, is going to work a half. Last year's Kentucky Oaks winner for Ken McPeak, and Derby and Oaks winning jockey Brian Hernandez Jr. is expected to be on the work for Torpedo Anna, who is also going to race right here at Churchill Downs on Kentucky Derby weekend. All right, here is the work as we bring Rosie Napravnik back in again. This is Saucier on the inside and Good Cheer on the outside. Rosie.
Yeah, it looks like Luis is just setting right off of Saucier with Good Cheer, which is just a really common way to get into the work, especially when you have a superior horse on the outside, which is where they would put her. You can see Luis kind of taking her just a little bit off of that horse, making some space between him, keeping her away from the rail. The closer to the rail you get, the faster you want to go. So he's just really under wraps on this filly, not surprising. To see her working this well, just a really classy, nice, easy breeze, very, very maintenance. Louis hasn't asked her for much. She's going to finish up about a head in front of her workmate. And then I can see Louis crouching down a little bit here and really asking for the gallop out. So again, a real maintenance work with a big gallop out by Luis. He's still kind of, letting her move on all the way around the second turn here. But she's moving easy. She's moving really easy, passes her workmate quite well. And just so relaxed. I mean, that's just really what you want to see from any of these horses out here. A lot of them, it's going to be a maintenance work, a maintenance half mile or 5/8, your week out from your big race, and just wanting them to gallop out and finish after the wire. And she's done that lovely.
Rosie makes a good point, Kevin. We want to see nice works here. We want to see easy works. We want to see good energy, particularly at the end. The heavy lifting for most of these horses obviously was done last weekend.
Yeah, done last weekend, and that was a sharp move that Good Cheer put in last weekend. So yeah, definitely very easy. And the company, this is Saucier, just one race for this City of Light filly. Definitely one you want to maybe add to your stable mail, because that was a nice move with Good Cheer, but definitely not somebody who's going to get Good Cheer overly amped up and do too much. So I think that went great.
Betting on the sparring partners has been a good wagering tactic in recent years here at Churchill Downs. Simply joking with Florent Giroux aboard for Whit Beckman. She looks like she may be going solo here as we send it back down to Rosie. And this is a horse, Rosie, that's going to be a forward factor, and you could tell she's looking to go.
Yeah, she's got her ears pricked here, and the rider's actually set her right down to the rail and is kind of looking for a forward move, it looks like. You can see there's a little slack in the rein, and the rider's just a bit crouched. Got her into the work now and coming around a turn. I would say if you compare this filly working to Good Cheer, I think Good Cheer is getting a better hold of the track, but this is a decent move coming down the lane. I mean, it appears that they wanted a pretty sharp work with Simply Joking. The jock is, he's sitting here, but he's letting her run. He's not keeping her under wraps. He's letting her run to the wire here.
Rosie, talk about the difference between working solo and working in company and why the trainers might do one or the other.
It usually depends on the horse and the type of work they're looking for. So with Simply Joking, working by herself, she could be a horse that's aggressive next to another horse. And so, you know, they don't want to do too much. When you put a horse in company, you're usually looking for that, competitive factor. You're wanting one horse to feed off of the other, and you might set it up a certain way. If you're going to put the workmate on the outside to sort of push the horse along. If it's a closer and doesn't put a lot into its work, so you would put the workmate kind of sitting off to push him along. And if you've got a horse that maybe you want to, rate, like a work we saw earlier, you're going to put your workmate in front and be able to pass.
There you see Simply Joking, not the only Whit Beckman charges in the Oaks and Derby. There you see Drexel Hill, she's got the pink. Flying Mohawk has got the highlighter yellow. They are both from the Whit Beckman barn. They are both running in the Oaks and the Derby respectively, Kevin, and they're going to work in company, which is intriguing here.
Yeah, it is intriguing. We saw Drexel Hill with Simply Joking in their last work, and like Rosie was saying, Simply Joking was pulling much more, very much more aggressive flow. His biceps were about to pop out. Here we can see Ben Curtis up on his mount there, Drexel Hill, and we've got that late kicker. They're both late kickers. They both come late, but we've got her to the outside as they get going. It seems like they're getting going pretty well here right off the bat.
Yeah, and Flying Mohawk, a horse that has done his best work on turf and synthetics. Drexel Hill is a dirt horse. Talk us through this, Rosie. We've got a Derby horse and an Oaks horse. We don't see this every day.
Yeah, this is definitely not common. And what's more interesting is both horses went super, super easy to the pole, like barely in a canter. But as soon as they got to the pole, both of them really jumped into the bridle. And it looks like Flying Mohawk on the inside is definitely tugging at his rider. You can see the rider is kind of bobbing up and down, his head's bobbing up and down as there is quite a bit of resistance there. He's also trying to keep the Flying Mohawk off the rail as to not go too fast, but Drexel Hill's having a really nice work on the outside. She looks like she was a little bit more relaxed around the turn and doing quite easy down the lane here on the outside of Flying Mohawk. They're coming to the wire just right in front of me here, and it almost looks like Drexel Hill's moving a little bit easier, but in the gallop out here, you can see they both have kind of dropped the horses' heads and they're going to let them gallop out. And Flying Mohawk looks like he wants to stick his nose in front galloping out. So that was a really good move. Again, really interesting that these two work together. Good work pair. I mean, they did work well together and looked like it was matched up just right.
Talked about Flying Mohawk being a synthetic turf horse, Kevin, but Whit Beckman has said he's always trained well in the dirt, and he doesn't have he's not overly concerned about handling it on Kentucky Derby Day. It's just a matter of the level of the competition he's going to face.
Yeah, it was interesting to see him as the lead horse in there and go very sharp and pulling so hard. One that we know for his late kicks. So I'm impressed by this. I'm impressed with his energy all the way through. And Drexel Hill got that head in front for a little bit, but Flying Mohawk said, no. I'm gonna go and get back to the front. This was a great move. We've been seeing these efforts beginning last year with Anna Marie from Whit Beckman getting to the Kentucky Derby. This year he's got Drexel Hill and he's got Simply Joking, Flying Mohawk. They've been training well at fairgrounds, and I'm excited to see how they do this upcoming weekend.
Here's Cole Battle as we watch him train here. Just going to get you caught up on some times. That in-company work between Flying Mohawk and Drexel Hill went a minute flat for Whit Beckman. Simply Joking went 47-3 for the half. Good cheer for Brad Cox, the Kentucky Oaks favorite, minute and 2/5. And we didn't see Torpedo Anna's work. Again, she's not working for the Kentucky Oaks. Last year's Oaks winner, 48 2/5. And here's Cole Battle. What a cool story as we got Megan Burgess back there. We can bring Megan in to talk a little bit about Cole Battle, who, has been a fan favorite. The trainer's a fan favorite. The horse is a throwback. He's won 5 races, and he's got his neck boat on the racetrack. Not exactly sure how much he's going to do here this morning, but just keeps going about his business.
I love this horse, guys, and Lonnie Briley, you have to just really put you have to be grateful for a trainer like him to let us really come to the barn and just talk about this horse, and that's exactly what Lonnie lets us do. He said he'll have a 3/8 blowout likely in the coming days. You see here, he's just kind of moving along really easily. Bethany Taylor also has mentioned that this horse is just such a fun horse to be on, and he does like to get a little, he likes to go in the morning. He has energy, and Lonnie Briley had mentioned mentioned that this horse goes to his stall and kind of lays down and naps throughout the day, and then you really see him come alive in the afternoon. He also mentioned that in the past, he's kind of just been like a 49 and change type 4 furlong horse, right? He hasn't really been an overzealous workhorse, but he has mentioned since he's gotten here to Churchill Downs that he's really liked to be that much more forward, which is encouraging coming into his greatest test, especially a horse that we really want, guys, to be able to see him take a step forward and get that much faster as we approach next Saturday.
Had the opportunity to join Jason Beam on his horse racing podcast the other day, and talked about the fact that when you see a horse run live, you're obviously going to gravitate towards that horse. You've got an intimate knowledge of the individual. More times than not, you're going to gravitate towards them. Not necessarily the case for me with Tistastic. I know we saw Fondly moments ago as well. We'll check out some video of her here momentarily. We both got to see Tistastic kind of run through those preps, particularly the Louisiana Derby at Fairgrounds, Kevin, where that was his coming out party. The work against Publisher, well documented, maybe that he was second best that particular day. Your overall impressions, and what do you think of what you're seeing right now with this one?
My big question with Tistastic is, does he need a specific track? He ran so well at Fairgrounds, trained so well at Fairgrounds when we did get a chance to see him. Not so much the case at Oaklawn. He'd found trouble, get outworked by Publisher in the mornings. You know, he got outworked by Publisher recently, but maybe he got a lot out of that work, and I like his energy right now. Joe, I've got him in my future wagers. I got him 103 to 1. I'm cheering this horse on.
Of course you are.
If he moves forward, he's gonna be a big threat. I like the fact he was able to get to the lead by that stretch call in the Louisiana Derby. That's a big part. You want to be in that forward contention at the eighth pole in the Kentucky Derby.
That's what the future wagers are all about, getting a better price in the future wager than you're going to get in the Derby. He's going to be 30 to 1 in the Kentucky Derby, so best of luck on that future wager as we bring Megan back in to talk about Tistastic.
Tistastic is an extremely unique horse. He has stakes credentials on both the turf and the dirt. And Steve had mentioned that the difference maker for this colt last time out in Louisiana was the distance. He is a colt that relishes extending out in those routes, and one that I really am confident that he was at 1 mile and 3/16, the only race to do so in the prep series, to go the 9.5 furlongs, and he should have no issues taking to the 10 furlongs next weekend. And he's very unique. I know a lot of people have had their opinions regarding his work in company with his stablemate Publisher, but I also like to keep in mind, and hopefully we'll be able to obviously get in touch with Steve on this as well, but keep in mind this horse we just mentioned is a distance-oriented colt. He might not be the flashiest in the morning and get to that full extension, whether it be a 4 furlong work, a 5 furlong work. So keep that in mind, guys, as you continue to follow the progress. And he's very unique. Keep him in mind next weekend.
Supreme power and authority. It is sovereignty. And let's take a look at him live. Let's find out if he, once again, has a little bit of lather. I don't necessarily see it from this vantage point. Rosie, you're up on the 4th floor. Again, we saw some footage of this horse getting a little bit lathered up on the neck and the kidney area yesterday, and actually the last couple of days. This is not live, this is moments ago, but what are you seeing here, Rosie?
Yeah, he came right past me under the wire here, and I actually watched him as he jogged back to warm up, and then they stood over here on the front side for quite a while before they went off for his gallop. So he stood for a long time, just kind of relaxing. When he was with the pony, when they started the gallop, he kind of got a little bit of aggressive, but I noticed that he was a little glossy as he came under the wire, but not lathered in sweat. And his gallop was just smooth, and he was really in the bridle, but doing it professionally. As we can see him on the backside here, now you can see a little bit of white sweat just, around his yoke where that's rubbing on his neck and kind of making that lather, but did not seem too upset from what I saw on the front side, especially after having stood here for a while.
Yeah, just a hint of it, Kevin. And again, the temperature in the low 60s now. It's not warm. You would think that horses, just like humans, would have the propensity to sweat a little bit more when the temperatures are warmer, or even more so when it's humid. Again, just a very light visual amount of lather on the neck there.
Yeah, it's great to hear Rosie say that he came out and stood for a while, right? That Bill Mott and the barn's trying to get him just to relax out there, spend time out there, feel comfortable out there. If there is anxiety, that he is going to get a chance to get over it.
Moments ago, we saw Tistastic on the racetrack. The other Steve Asmus in charge is publisher. As we bring Rosie back in, he looks like he wants to do a little bit more than he's being allowed here, Rosie.
You know what? I watched these two horses also jog back in their warm-up. It looked like Publisher actually went in and schooled in the paddock. Tistastic galloped off first, and then this horse came around. Publisher's I really like this horse. I like to see him out on the track. I like that it looks like he's getting better in his races. He is quite the professional, very relaxed, and just a smooth gallop out here for a professional. He was one that like really caught my eye as they were over here on the front side warming up and turning around to gallop.
You rode Untappable for Steve Asmus and Rosie, now a publisher, obviously a maiden, going into the Derby, as is Steve. Whoa! Citizen Bull, let's take a look at him. He's got the neck bowed, looking like he's the man out there, Kevin.
Yeah, here he is. First time we've seen him on the track, correct? Coming out here for the Baffert barn, and one who's got the blinkers off now, where the question mark is. We saw him take those off in a recent drill, then back on for the drill right after that. But yeah, he's trying to flex a little bit, showing he's a little bit cocky coming here on the track and let people know that he has arrived.
Yeah, he looks great out there. Rosie, let's bring you back on. Again, this horse worn blinkers in every single start, took the blinkers off for an in-company work last week, wore the blinkers in a solo work recently, and still some question whether or not he's going to wear blinkers or not in the Derby. We'll find out tomorrow morning.
Well, he just came past me, and I can tell you, for a horse that's just jogging, he is out here feeling quite aggressive. His rider had a hold of the reins like all the way to the end of the rubber where you've just run out of grip, and the horse is just jogging. So quite aggressive. You know, obviously, you know, Baffert's got 3 speed horses in this race, and you know, they're adjusting the blinkers on Rodriguez. They're thinking about adjusting the blinkers on Citizen Bull. So we'll have to just wait and see what they decide. And you know, that decision, there's a lot of things that can play into that decision that are to come with his training here. So we'll see how it goes. You can see this rider is even off to the side trying to hold this horse.
Yeah.
He's really aggressive. I mean, this is this rider is like at his last resort here, when you kind of cock off to the side to just get that extra leverage against the horse, and keeping his head turned toward the outside, keeping him away from the rail, away from the horses that are inside of him, galloping the opposite direction. But he looks, you know, he's moving very well, and has got his ears pricked. He absolutely feels good, just super aggressive.
It's interesting, Kevin, that work on April the 18th broke 5 lengths behind the stablemate Lionel. I thought made a nice move, reeling him in. The workmate shut it down, but he continued solidly through the turn, and then the blinkers went back on. I'm like, well, maybe they just want him to focus in this work, put the blinkers back on, and now we're hearing that Bob Baffert is undecided whether or not the blinker is going to come off for the Derby. To play into your handicapping process at all?
I think we could definitely we could overthink that for sure. And maybe what he'd want to do is see his energy on the track, right? See how keyed up he is, and that's how they're going to make their decision. He's like Rosie is saying, he's definitely aggressive here, so that makes blinkers might be off for that guy, as opposed to, but maybe want focus. I don't know. We got to talk to a horseman about that decision, but he definitely seems to be on the muscle, and we'll keep our eye on that this week to see if he stays that way.
I want to ask Rosie, can you look at the conformation of a horse without looking at the past performances and have an idea of whether they're built to sprint, built for longer distances, et cetera, et cetera? And in particular, what are you seeing from this horse's physique?
I love the way that Citizen Bull is built, actually. I think for a sprinter, you're going to find a horse that's really compact, maybe a little bit more downhill from back to front. This horse seems to be, you know, he's a compact horse, but he's not, you know, he's not too downhill. He's not a horse that you're thinking is not going to get the distance in a sense that he's built that way. When you have a horse that's, you know, one of those real come from behind closers, a lot of times they're built a little bit more uphill, they're long and rangy. And then, you know, you have horses that always go against everything that you can predict. So,
good point.
But I love the way that this horse is built. He's got like that perfect in between of like being compact, but he's also like very leggy, and he's very proportionate from head to tail. So it's not like you have a really long back with a short neck, or vice versa, a really short back with a long neck. I mean, I think proportion-wise is really what you're looking for when you're looking for good conformation to cover a long distance of ground.
Citizen Bull's done all of his work, Kevin. We're just going to see more, gallops moving forward into the Derby next Saturday. And, for a horse that's just coming out onto the racetrack here, and he's got good energy, looking good, seeing some positives from him. Good to see how he progresses over the course of the next few days.
Yeah, he looks like Tony Kalo after his live long shot came in. He's just ready to bang his head against the wall and
that is a scene, isn't it?
Give you a high five. So I like it. It's something to work with, and we'll keep our eye on it in terms of whether he stays on the muscle like this.
Again, Bob Baffert with Citizen Bull, who has been forward in all of his races. Will the blinkers come off for the Kentucky Derby? The blinkers came off for Rodriguez in the Wood Memorial, and he went gate to wire. That's a big move for Bob Baffert percentage and ROI wise as we bring in finally. And the point I was getting to earlier, Kevin, was when you have an intimate knowledge of a horse, or you were there when they won a particular race, sometimes you gravitate to them. I know Caitlin Free is gravitating a little bit towards Fondley, who did win the Virginia Oaks at Colonial last out. You were there as well, so I'd like to get your impressions on what you think of her and her chances as a lightly raced individual next Friday.
Yeah, she was super impressive to win that, right, Joe? That was her first time stretching out, just 2 races under her belt. I thought that was a nice stepping stone. If you think about a horse that's going from a sprint distance to a route distance, she got to do it just going 1 turn. So it was a nice spot to learn her lessons, to move forward from it. Now, that being said, she's not proven going 2 turns, but she did it really nicely last time. She looks great right now. She looks beautiful.
Talked about the pace scenario in the Kentucky Derby. One horse that should be forward is American Promise for Dwayne Lucas, and word is he's going to breeze tomorrow, but he's out here, Rosie, for a gallop. And again, when you're talking about the beauty contest, this is another impressive specimen out there.
Yeah, American Promise out here galloping. Is that American Promise? She's got a Derby towel on.
Yeah, it's American Promise for Dwayne Lucas.
Okay, sorry. Moving well out here. Yeah, really big, good-looking horse. Kind of has a little bit of a choppier way of going, but really settling in with his rider.
And you can see Torpedo Anna finishing up the work just on the inside.
Yeah, that was
there.
pretty cool.
That's cool to see.
We got the yellow and the pink, and then we got Torpedo Anna doing her own thing. I believe that saddle towel was designed by Kenny McPeak and his team after she won at Saratoga last summer. And there you see Dwayne Lucas just continues to do his thing. Kevin, at the age of 89, one of my favorite things to do is go to the backstretch pre-Derby, pre-Oaks, and just, talk to Wayne about years past and what he's looking forward to in this year's run for the Triple Crown.
Yeah, Coach is in the house. Got it done with a secret oath a couple of years ago in the Oaks.
There you see Bob Baffert again, couple-year hiatus from the Kentucky Derby. Bob is back, and he's back with a couple of contenders in Citizen Bull and Rodriguez. And there you see Ian Wilkes with a watchful eye on the racetrack, Kevin.
Yeah, Bernie, as they call him in the barn, Burnham Square, who's definitely been a little bit rambunctious and moving with tons of energy on the track in the morning. So Burnham Square is a late kicker that I've got a lot of interest in.
Ian Wilkes with his second Kentucky Derby starter. And Diane McCracken a few years ago, who had a troubled trip, wide trip, finished in the middle of the pack, also with Brian Hernandez Jr. aboard, who will be boarded in the Kentucky Derby a week from tomorrow. Speaking of the Kentucky Derby, we want to reiterate the opportunity for you to join the Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge. And Kevin, it's $5,000 to get in. A lot of people have qualified. I believe 50 or 60 people have already qualified for the betting challenge. Some more qualifying opportunities coming up that aren't quite the $5,000 entry fee, but are expensive. To me, it's like pull a few of your friends, pool the money, maybe have a captain of the ticket, because I think that's the best way to do it. But it's almost like sponsoring somebody in a poker tournament. Find a friend that you think can do well in this, sponsor them. These tournaments are very exciting and could be very lucrative.
Yeah, everybody's gonna be watching it. Everybody's gonna be tuning in. Not everybody has opinions. Find your friend that does have opinions. Put the money in their account and let them take a swing, right? Or hustle your friends and gather that money yourself.
Hustle you.
If you've got the opinions, you wanna have some money behind you.
Right, just get some pools together. People get pools together to bet the Superfecta and the Kentucky Derby. The Twin Spires app and website offer you a lot of great opportunities, including that bet share that we'll talk about more over the course of the next week or so. And we'll talk about it tomorrow, in fact, Kevin, because it's opening night at Churchill Downs. Man, I am super excited. Wintered at Fairgrounds, got back here. You take those steps up and towards the Oaks and the Derby and the draw and opening night. I mean, there's just so much excitement around this place as we're about a week out from the Oaks and the Derby weekend.
Yeah, we've got a strong field of fillies and mares in that Roxalana that we'll get to see in that stake on opening night, and we've got the draw. The energy is just amazing opening night. You got to come out for it. It's special, Joe.
5 o'clock, first post for opening night at Churchill Downs. The draw will occur between races 5 and 6, about 7:15 Eastern time. And we got to see some Oaks workers, maybe some more Oaks workers a little bit later on this morning. Some important workouts for the Kentucky Derby horses tomorrow. First day up on the 4th floor for Rosie Napravnik as we go back to her to get some thoughts on what you saw up there this morning, Rosie.
Yeah, well, it's actually just starting. The rain is just starting to come down, so I think those that worked earlier were probably right to do that. I think some of the horses that stood out to me, we didn't see a whole lot of breezers this morning, but I really loved Publishers, a lightly raced horse who's going to have to continue improving. Sovereignty was out here. I was not disappointed with how hot he got. I thought it was perfectly appropriate and had a really strong gallop. Citizens Bull, who was just extremely aggressive, just out here jogging, were a couple that stood out to me. But we'll see what the weather does here, and we'll be back tomorrow to see some more Derbies and Oaks workers.
All right, thanks, Rosie. Great to have her on the show. Let's send it over to Megan to find out her final thoughts.
Well, it was a busy morning. It was a little less busy than we anticipated, but the rain is coming down behind me. Tomorrow will be a day to not miss, as not only we might have some of those Oaks workers flowing in tomorrow, but of course the Derby workers tomorrow will be a huge sight to see. But one of the biggest sentiments I've taken from today is Bob is back. Bob Baffert makes his return to Louisville, and Citizen Bull was extremely eye-catching this morning. He has been one that Bob had mentioned maybe wasn't cranked to 100% last time out in the Santa Anita. He said the fitness wasn't quite where he wanted him to be, and I think coming into this race, you are looking at a very different story. This colt looks very much sitting on go this morning, and you could see Rosie's thoughts on that as well, with this rider hanging on for dear life, making sure that colt was doing just as little but as much as he needed to do to get out a stroll over the track as he arrived yesterday. But guys, Bob with Citizen Bull and Rodriguez, I highly encourage you to keep your eye on them as we march forward to Saturday. We've also got some offsite workers to update you on as well. So it's getting real and it's getting serious.
Well, thanks, Megan. Those offsite workers, a chunk of gold at Turfway, and interested to see how Grande does at Keeneland today. He hasn't worked since the Wood Memorial. Your final impressions of what you saw this morning?
Give me some Flying Mohawk. I thought that was a very nice move on the inside, taking that pressure. He seems to be moving forward for Whit Beckman. Jason Worth, a part of the ownership group of Flying Mohawk. Distance, Beckman has always said, is his friend. The further he goes, the better. That's what he's going to get coming up here next Saturday. So I love to see that. And of course, the 2-year-old champion, he's here, right? Citizen Bull, he came out like he wanted to prove it to everybody. So Citizen Bull is definitely one that is scratching my head over what to do with that guy.
Last year, endlessly, remember, he was going to try the dirt. We knew going in, based on how he was handling the dirt, and he ran okay in the Kentucky Derby, kind of sort of split the field. But the horses coming out of the Turfway races, Flying Mohawk, and the horse that beat him last time, Final Gambit, both look good training on the track here.
They both look great on the track. His win at Fairgrounds on the turf for Flying Mohawk was over States' Rights, a very good one for Shrita Vo. So he's got good running lines.
Some trainers on the backstretch here looking for the taste of Kentucky Derby glory for the first time. These two are not amongst them. There you see Dwayne Lucas, also Bob Baffert making his reappearance here at Churchill Downs for Kentucky Derby 151. Lots of Derby wins, Triple Crown wins amongst them. Just a little bit of what you see when you come out to Churchill Downs, and you'll see more of what we've been seeing on the Kentucky Derby Workout Show tomorrow.